Pratik and Kiran are colleagues working in the Logistics and Supply Chain Department for Indian Oil Corporation. They are discussing the production, processes, and extraction of oil and natural gas along with the latest developments made in this industry.
Welcome to Force Edu, a place where all business and supply chain enthusiasts come for a weekly dose of knowledge. If you have not yet subscribed to our channel, you're missing out on value adding content.
Hey Kiran, how are things going on?
Everything is going fine. How are you?
I am fine too. You know, the oil and natural gas industry has never been so dynamic. Did you hear about the plans of Indian Oil Corporation to meet the growing energy needs in new and affordable ways?
Yes. IOC is deeply committed to sustainability principle and is integrating alternative energy and renewable resources in our operations. However, it will indeed be a challenge for India to expand its oil production.
Indeed, with India's domestic crude oil production falling by 5.2% and natural gas production by 8.1% in the financial year 2021, it will be a challenge. The aging wells from which most of India's crude oil and natural gas production comes have become less productive over time.
India does have strategically planned placements of its refineries and reserves. The largest petroleum reserves are found in the western offshore and Assam. The eastern offshore and the western offshore have the largest natural gas reserves.
That is true. Indian refineries in general have up to 65 days of fuel storage in reserve, and adding to the Indian Strategic Petroleum Reserve emergency fuel store of 10 days in Phase 1 and 12 days in Phase 2, add up to 87 days. This reserve is very close to the storage of 90 days mandated by IEA, that is the International Energy Agency, for member countries.
Ideally, oil refineries have to be located near their raw materials, the market, or at some place intermediate. Since much of the oil producing countries in the world have relatively less internal demand, they have to trade a large portion of the total. Oil is one of the single largest commodities in the world trade. Therefore, most significant refineries are situated on the coast, whether in producing or consuming countries.
That is affirming. But do you know why there is low private participation in India's upstream oil and gas sector compared to other countries?
It is primarily due to delays in the operationalization of hydrocarbon blocks. The government has asked companies like ONGC and IOC to boost investments and increase tie-ups with foreign players. But the current 20% cess on domestically produced crude oil seems to be a hurdle.
Despite this hurdle, India has 18 public sector refineries and 5 refineries in the private sector or as a joint venture. And many refineries are using high sulfur, lower end residual oil to produce lighter oils, that are petrol and diesel, by installing petroleum coker units which refines oil with a higher calorific value and sulfur.
Since high sulfur pet coke and residual oils are banned in developed countries, these fuels further are converted into methanol and synthetic natural gas in methanation plants to avoid their disposal problems. Nearly 38% of residual fuel oils are consumed in the shipping sector.
India is the third largest consumer of crude oil globally, after the United States and China. Natural gas is consumed for energy 60.68% and non-energy 39.32% related uses, and it is projected to rise from 4.8 million barrels per day in 2019 to 7.2 million barrels per day by 2030.
It concerns me that India is slowly becoming more dependent on its oil and natural gas imports. In India, the share of oil imports as a proportion of overall crude oil consumption has risen from 81.8% in the financial year 2012 to 87.6% in financial year 2020. India spent around 4.84 lakh crore to import crude oil in 2020. Yes, and India is now the second biggest oil importer after China and is highly dependent on imported crude oil. However, the government of India is also keen on boosting oil and gas production in their schemes.
Yes, the government's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative aims to boost the use of natural gas in India's primary energy mix from the current 6.2% to 15% by 2030. So the future does look green for India.
Yes. So despite the dependence on imports, India is now a net exporter of refined petroleum products. And this looks bright for our country's future. Jai Hind.
That was an insightful discussion, wasn't it? And before we sign off for today, do you know which company owns the most number of oil refineries in India? Share your answers down below in the comment section.
And you guys out there, thank you for watching this video. To know more about China's operational strategies and supply chain efficiency, stay tuned to our channel Force Edu and watch out for our next video.